Hello and welcome to Wednesday group. My name is Lyndon Sylvester and I'll be your host for the Mega Groups. Our group today is scheduled from 3 to 4:30 p.m. But before we begin, let's go over some information about this webinar. This group will operate in webinar format. Attendees will not be able to turn on their video or microphone during Mega Groups. You are counted in attendance as soon as you logged in. You do not need to follow up with us regarding attendance. If you lose connection, try to rejoin the webinar as soon as possible. You will still receive your incentive even if you get disconnected from the webinar. All right, let's begin. We have a very exciting group ahead of us, but before we start, let's go over today's goals. So first, we'll have our opening ritual. Then we'll go into program announcements, incentive cards, and activation codes. We have a showcase of work from your small groups. Then we have our Borough Storytelling Series premiere from Queens. Our animation industry guest speaker for today is Martin Flores, and my partner for the Mega Groups, Lisa Clementi.
Hi, Lyndon. Hi, everyone. So great to be back here in this Mega Group space with you all. So I'm going to lead us through our opening ritual for today. And Lyndon, as you can imagine through our creative engagement workshop over the weeks, we've been talking a lot about animation and styles of animation. So we are going to ask you today, what is one of your favorite styles of animation? So in the chat right now, you're seeing a link. It'll take you to another site where you actually get to answer. And then we're going to see this happen in live time. So super excited. As always. And you know, there's so many different styles of animation, so they're not all up on this poll today, but there is an other category for anything that you're thinking of that might not be listed.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Going up already.
Yeah. Okay. It looks like a close tie between 2D and 3D animation.
Yeah.
No wonder we've been working in our 3D animation.
So we got one for stop motion and 3 for claymation.
All right. There's also puppet animation, paper cutout animation, even whiteboard animation. Lyndon, what would you choose here?
I personally think that I would have to go with stop motion.
Yeah. But it still looks like our team here today, they are voting for 3D animation. No surprise there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I would click on claymation. That's one of my favorite styles.
Yeah. I like claymation too.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining in our opening ritual. Looks like 3D is taking it home today.
Yeah. They're the winner. Okay, everyone. It's time to go into some program reminders. All right, program reminders and incentives. So if you have not received your incentive card, please email incentives@theanimationproject.org. If you registered for this program late, your card is on the way, but it's delayed. Funds for groups attended through May 20th were loaded to your card on May 26th. Incentives for attending orientation were added to your card on June 2nd. Your next payment is scheduled for June 16th. Payment for any makeup classes will not be loaded onto your card until July 7th. You received an email with the activation codes and instructions on May 26th. You may also look up your activation code on the TAP website and using the password program2.
Awesome. Thanks, Lyndon. So we're going to move on to activating your card. For online activation, you do not need your activation code. For phone activation, you do need the activation code provided. And a reminder, this code is not your social security number or any number related to your social security number. This is a randomly generated 4-digit code unique to your card. And please note that you should reach out to TAP via email with personal questions about activation codes. So if you missed an orientation, missed a group, incentive questions, please visit our website, www.theanimationproject.org, for immediate answers to your questions. Right now, you'll see a link in the chat that will take you directly to our FAQ page.
All right, who to contact? So if you have questions about incentives, you can contact incentives@theanimationproject.org. If you have a question about your schedule or attendance, you can contact program2@theanimationproject.org. And if you want to make up a session, you can contact program2@theanimationproject.org.
Thanks, Lyndon. All right, so before we get into our showcase for today, I would just like to acknowledge that we will not have a guest for Friends of TAP this week. We do, however, look forward to connecting you with some incredible folks who may offer programming that may be of interest to you in future mega groups. But over to you, Lyndon.
Thanks for that important information, Lisa. All right, everyone, it's time to check out some of the work that was created in your small groups. Amazing work, everyone. I really love your characters. They're really super cool and unique. And as always, you always seem to surprise me every week. And please keep up the good work. I really love it. Alrighty, it's time for me to introduce Stefan Ramnarine, a TAP intern.
Hello, everyone. Super psyched to be here. Thank you, TAP staff, for allowing me to come. Hi, my name is Stefan Ramrine. I'm a generalist animator based in Queens. I've worked as a generalist mostly in game design, filling out different roles from programming to animation and art. And along my creative journey, I discovered TAP, participating at the very beginning levels in the Borough Neons before COVID, where I had the pleasure of meeting Lisa, Lyndon, Nyla, and Nala. Right now, I'm currently an intern with TAP's virtual intensive training internship, one of the later steps, where we're really focusing in on specific parts of the CG production pipeline and learning just everything that we can about it. When I found out that this month's Borough storytelling series was from Queens, I had to come by and participate. The storytelling series is a program that allows participants to engage in the creative storytelling process, exploring one of New York's different boroughs each month. The participants worked alongside a professional animator, utilizing a professional production schedule and creating a short animation in just 4 2-hour sessions, essentially exposing them to the entire pipeline and telling a story in just 8 hours. So let's take a look at the final borough in our series, Queens.
The Queen of Queens and the Baker.
Once upon a time, in a land where the city never sleeps and the streets and avenues are all the same, was a borough called Queens, to be precise. There lived the Queen of Queens, who had a big heart and cared for all the people of the borough. It was her birthday, and only she could find the perfect cake for her gala that very night in Jamaica Estates. The Queen started on her grand quest for the fanciest cake in all the land. As her red heels hit the pavement, she happened to stumble onto a bakery flyer that appeared, like magic. Shocked by her luck, off she went.
The Queen arrived at the bakery, and the sight of the cakes on display made her do a double take. Pointing to the cakes, she said, "I would like one. You can surprise me, but make it large." The baker was excited and took the request of the grand task and got to work. The Queen was amazed at all the hard work and dedication that was put into her grand cake. As the baker worked, the Queen looked around the shop and to her dismay saw a foreclosure sign. The bakery was on its last life.
The baker revealed to the Queen her grand cake. The Queen was in awe and wished to repay her. The Queen thought of what she can do with her power. I mean, she was the Queen after all. With a smirk, she took a picture of the cake and posted it. Since I have 200 million followers, this post will help. The Queen's influence spread the message about the bakery across the land, and the bakery was able to stay open. Oh, and the Queen's party was a blast.
The end.
Very, very cute. So at this time, I would like to invite the two participants who worked on this project to come on microphone and the camera, and we will be having a Q&A with the participants. And before we do any of that, please introduce yourselves and tell us about your journey with TAP. Why don't we? Why doesn't Peter go first?
Oh, okay. So, hey, my name is Peter. I am, I'm a longtime TAP participant, and I've been interested in learning animation, computer animation for and this bird storytelling series has just been a way for me to get my. It's just been a very creative endeavor to take on because there is something unique about every single borough, and so it's good to have like. And I was thinking that this would be a great way to explore the unique, diverse aspects of each borough when it comes to uh, just thinking of a story for each borough. So, just I think I was the first person to really think of the Queen of Queens, and and just running with the sort of concept of there being a queen who take over, who first started. How do I say the queen's
Sorry,
aspect?
Peter. We're losing you a bit. Can you repeat what you said just now?
Oh, I said I was the first person to come up with the concept of the Queen of Queens, because just like the cultural diversity of Queens, and there's definitely that aspect of like there's something magical and elegant. There's places in Queens called Corona and Flushing and Kew Gardens. It's like it lends itself to that sort of story. So the elegance of there being a ball, and there's this, and I believe there's some sort of silver globe. I'm not sure what it's called. Yeah, certain things about Queens. It's like, yeah, I don't know how to explain it. It's not to say that it's like a fairy tale place, but it is a really, it's a really cool, magical place. Like, even though, even though it's still part of New York City.
I agree completely. Queens is definitely magical. It's so diverse here. You can just visit all cultures in. You can go around the entire world in 10 minutes. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, Carolina, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. Um, nice to meet you all. I think I've seen a lot of you already. And then very honored to be a part of the TAPS borough storytelling groups. This time, I think I worked a little bit out of my comfort zone with the recording of some reaction voices. So that was really fun. I mean, it was, a teamwork, and I think, yeah, that's the most valuable part about TAP. And then, yeah, happy to talk about it more.
You really get that sense, like at all levels, just working with everybody as a team, and then completing these massive projects like that. Even in the neons, from the storytelling group to the internships, it's really cool just working with everybody and collaborating on these projects. Um, so yeah, we're gonna invite the chat to ask any questions for the participants. We'll start with an easy one. What was your favorite part of working on this project?
Before we do questions, I have a statement. I'm sorry, this was last minute, but I have a statement from another participant in the group that I'd like to read, if that's okay with everybody. Hi, my name is Steph. I'm one of the co-facilitators of the Borough Storytelling Group. I'm a creative arts therapist, and I'm going to read a statement written by Aravis, who was in the group. During my time with the TAP Borough series, I was given the opportunity to be as creative and spontaneous as I wanted to be. The borough of Queens is wonderfully multicultural, but it's still divided by class and race in certain ways. Normally, queer stories aren't always told or given the spotlight, so I wanted to change that. I also knew that this would be the last one in the series and would premiere during Pride Month. It was also fantastic to collaborate and push new ideas with the TAP team and fellow participants. I wish we were given another chance to go further in depth with specific neighborhoods, as more places in New York should be highlighted and given voice. The opportunities for stories are endless. That is exactly right. Thank you, Aravis.
Very well said. Very well said.
Maybe could you repeat the question since I took some
Yes.
time?
Sorry, just checking for you guys can ask anything in the chat, in the Q&A section. Right. So, Carolina, Peter, what was your favorite parts about working on this project?
Well, if I get the chance to go, I loved working. I love brainstorming this because I believe coming up with the certain initial concepts was really fun because we were playing around with the idea of having a baker lose their business and having it evolved from that to having it focus on, Queen and the Pride Month, the aspects of Pride Month and having a queen in the aspect, and it really became a lot of different things. And so it was it was it's always fun to brainstorm. However, and like Queens just gives off so much inspiration. So and so there were so many ways we could have done it, and so I feel like brain.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Peter. We're losing you again.
You're covering your mic, Peter.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I happen to not be in my house at the moment. I am at my doctor's appointment. So sorry about that. But I meant to say that Queens gives us so much inspiration, yet, we're only able to fit it into a short story. So, but it is just good brainstorming it as always is so it's always just, coming up with the concept, and also voice recording was my favorite part.
Yeah. See, like Peter's dedication, even though he's at a doctor's appointment, still showing up for us just shows you all how much we love the storytelling kind of series. But to add on and piggyback on what Peter said, the voice recording part was definitely really fun. You get to hear it's over Zoom, obviously, and it's just amazing how much we can do over Zoom these days too. But most importantly, it's more difficult than one would think. And it's not like a one take kind of situation. A lot of emotions are conveyed. And since it's a very short kind of clip, we kind of do need to be very clear on what we actually want. And I think the TAP staff, Nyla actually gave me a lot of instructions on the voice recording on like the expressiveness on it. So I thought that part was really cool. And yeah, and the brainstorming part, by the way, we had a lot of titles that we wanted to choose from. I think the group is like, our group is always very creative with things. And then we have like a bunch of titles and then we kind of voted on and then we tied a bit and then we voted on again and then we tied again. And so it was a long process to even come up with this like title that we currently have. But, after all, like after there's the last session, we kind of confirm everything and then everything kind of just goes to a good spot and then we premiere it and then we're happy about it always. Yeah.
Okay, we have Dion and Opal Lenore. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your names. I do genuinely apologize. Asking similar questions. How long did you guys have, and can you speak to that? Like, was there like a lot of pressure? It was very short, I know that.
Oh, I think the more pressuring part was with with the animators themselves, with the technical kind of rendering, because for us we kind of have like a reserved time for 2 hours every week for that month to work on things. So we kind of have a space to do that. But I think the animators like Nyla worked on it, and maybe other animators, they probably have to like spend a lot more time to kind of rendering it and then showing us the next session. So uh, as a participant, I think the storytelling part was more of a discussion, and everyone is very like peaceful and chill and calm. So we always just work within those 2 hours, and then next week we come back again, reconvene, and then reiterating process.
Very cool. How many of you were collaborating on the story? How large was the group? And Peter, feel free to jump in.
So I believe there were about 10. Let's see, there was I want to say about 6 or 7 people that contributed to the project, like directly, including me and Carolina, in Aravis. So it was, of course, our our group therapist. They shouldn't be overlooked. So yes, yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna go into detail, but yeah, that was how many people contributed to the project.
Everyone is absolutely essential. The amount of times that things get out of hand and then the therapist calm us down, we need them. So unfortunately, I think that we are out of time for this portion. Ellen, can you confirm?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for your great questions. Thank you for answering participants. Good luck at the doctor, Peter.
No, yeah. So, oh, yeah. So, yeah. It's gonna have a day. 2 things are scheduled at the same time. Yeah, it is what it is. So thank you guys so much for bearing with me. All right.
All right,
Thank
everyone.
you. Wow. Right, Lyndon?
Yeah.
I was just going to thank the whole Queensboro storytelling team and Stefan for leading us through this Q&A. Wow.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I'm really actually proud of this film because I'm from Queens myself, so seeing this film, it really makes me happy. So great work, everyone.
Yeah, isn't that such the power of storytelling? And I also want to go to that bakery and get that cake.
Oh, yeah. Same here.
And thank you to our creative engagement small groups for sharing your amazing creativity with us too. Amazing work, all.
Yes, thank you, everyone. All righty, it's time to transition to our guest speaker segment. I'm going to pass the mic over to Kat Gillespie, TAP's Industry Outreach Advisor.
Thank you very much, Lyndon. It's a pleasure to be here with you all this afternoon. It's especially been a pleasure to see everyone's incredible creativity and talent. And thank you for sharing that space and for moderating the conversation, Steph. So without further ado, we've got a lot planned for you today, as you can tell. It's my pleasure to introduce the incredibly talented Martin Flores, a graphic designer currently working at Nickelodeon Studios, or Nickelodeon. So we're very, very happy to introduce him to you all today and have him share his story with you. So without further ado, Martin, if you don't mind, maybe perhaps, sharing a little bit about yourself within this space, and perhaps also, offering your story on how you got into the industry.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I have a sort of zigzag adventure into the world of graphic design. Like, my dad kept pushing me to be a doctor, but I kept like feeling my own sort of spirit inside of me, like get pushed to the arts and design and stuff. And from there, I ended up going to a high school that actually offered majors, and one of them was commercial art. And from there, I started like understanding like, oh, what is commercial art? What is graphic design? Uh, and so like, you know, you do that for 4 years. My dad's still like, you should be a doctor. And I'm like, maybe. Um, so, but then I went to one college, transferred as an undecided student, and started. I did industrial design at another college for 4 years. Not a big industrial design person, so I ended up taking continuing education classes at SVA at the School of Visual Arts in New York, and built up my portfolio from there, and then like hopped around from like a few jobs, you know, year after year, and then ended up at Nickelodeon.
Wow, and why did you choose Nickelodeon for your current place of employment?
I was working at a startup right before this, and I was well, actually, a lot of my experience has been with like a lot of startups previous to that. Like it was like either people starting a new business or like we're trying to like become established, and I wanted to try out like the giant, um, like fully established, like not a fortress, but like the I don't know, the established. Yeah, it's an establishment of like Nickelodeon. It's a lot more solid in a lot of ways, but things do move slower. So like I just wanted to try it out and get the experience. And I've been here for like 3 years coming up on it. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. And if you don't mind sort of sharing within this space, what your role as a graphic designer looks like at Nickelodeon, like what your day-to-day might look like, or what does it mean to be a graphic designer within Nickelodeon?
Sure. So we have a lot of graphic designers and design departments at Nick. I'm on the branding and events team, meaning that I work on show logos. And because we do events, we do like Kids' Choice Awards every year. So we're in charge of figuring out how to make that look, what sort of concept we should go with. And like even testing out slime. I've been slimed, which is something that doesn't actually happen that often to the people who work there, but I was lucky enough to get slimed. Yeah, and so usually, you know, you do anything from like administrative stuff from like answering emails to like doing a lot of lettering pieces in one day. I've been doing a lot of lettering this past like few months, and like custom type. It's a lot of custom typography and stuff like that.
Awesome, thank you. And I'd love for you to expand a bit about that experience you had getting slimed. That is a very unique circumstance that happened to you, and I'm really, really jealous.
Yeah, it's like definitely one for the bucket lists, I think, for a lot of people when I really tell them about it. So basically what happened, there's something at all media corporations called an upfront. Like a lot of television channels have something called an upfront, and that's a presentation they do to advertisers and people who want to buy intellectual property. So they'll be like, okay, we want a Paw Patrol, like we want to license your Paw Patrol property to make bed sheets or whatever. And so to show it off, like show off like all the new shows and stuff that you can buy property and like place ads in. We do a presentation of an upfront, be like, hey, here's how much, here's our viewership, here's this. Anyway, in that, my team works on the presentation for that every year. And this time they invited us to like where the presentation was happening. Do you know the shed? Yes, it was happening in there. And so it was in this, yeah, it was like this really big space with like all these like CEOs and stuff. But before that, they wanted to slime somebody like as a speaker on stage to close it out and be like, yeah, we're sliming people. So they needed like a volunteer to stand in their place to like make sure the slime cannons worked and to make sure that they had the right like PSI, so like pressure settings for it, and also the right amount of slime. So they had like 2 slime cannons on both like sides, and they just kept repeatedly sliming me over and over again until they felt it was enough. So they started out with a little bit and like it coats your legs, and then they do it again. They're like, oh, increase it up. So it gets your shoulders, and then like the last 2 are just like over your head and stuff. Yeah, they're like, that's enough. Yeah.
Well, I'm starting to feel a little bit less jealous of your sliming experience because it sounds like you got very, very, very slimed.
Actually, it was pretty fun. It was only like 5 minutes of my time, and
so
like it wasn't too much. Yeah, they saved a lot more slime for the person next time. But yeah, it was interesting.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it.
Welcome.
I am also aware of the fact that you brought other items or other projects to share with us today. addition to your sketchbook. So I'd really love to sort of offer you some time and space with which to talk through some of the projects that you've most recently been working on, or the ones that you want to share within this this Zoom room.
Yes.
And in the meantime, I wanted to sort of let everyone know within our among our participants, please feel free to reach out ahead of with any questions of the projects that you might be seeing here. So I'll try to get to them as quickly as possible.
Cool. Let me share my screen.
Thank you.
Okay. So I hope people are aware that like Camp Coral is a new spin-off SpongeBob show, and so these are like a bunch of different like lettering options I was doing for logos. My logo unfortunately didn't get picked, which is fine, but like there's also like very specific like requirements everybody wants, because there's like so many teams like that have responsibilities for them. So I'll just go through the lettering, which I think is like really fun. I'll show you a bunch of options. You can all see this, right? Hopefully.
Yes, we can definitely see them.
Great. So it was a lot of like practicing bamboo, like borrowing from the SpongeBob universe, doing a lot of fake stuff, trying to make it look like camp signs. The plot in Camp Coral is that Mr. Krabs runs the camp. So there's just also this idea that like it's a little bit cheap in some ways. And it's honestly just like playing around with like a lot of color and like vibrant textures and stuff, and like camp paraphernalia and like no, ephemera, that's the right word. Yeah, so it's honestly just like revision. And I don't know, I like that work a lot, of like doing little edits to things and like trying to do like as broad of an exploration as possible in the beginning. That's kind of the sort of strategic thing I would advise, and it also saves you a lot of time. But yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing these
Sure.
Initial designs. I mean, what did that process look like for you? I think the pitch production process is always so fascinating. Like, how were you briefed on this project?
Different projects have different types of briefs depending on the client and stuff. Some of them don't know fully what they want, and they want to see an exploration to like sort of start brainstorming that way. Other ones want a very specific way. For Camp Coral, it was they knew what the show was, they know what the property is, like it's already SpongeBob, and now we're just gonna do like SpongeBob in like a 3D version. So they wanted to explore if like maybe we should keep doing a flat like logo like the original SpongeBob, but also they wanted to see a lot of 3D options. So we were doing things that had like a lot of texture, like a lot of seaweed elements. Yeah, it's just a lot of texture pretty much. Or just like using a lot of like photorealistic references, because even in this one you can see like the background, the using like the water texture, the ripples and stuff. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what sort of time frame did you have for this?
Because it's Nickelodeon and they have a lot of like layers to get through, because it also needs to go through like legal to make sure it doesn't look like any other logos, and to make sure we don't get in trouble for like whatever reasons, because there's a lot of just lawsuits out there in the world. It's a pretty long process. It was, I think, like maybe there was like a lot of back and forth because we have other projects going on with this. I was like maybe somewhere from 2 to 3 months to like even 6 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So longer time frame than what I would have anticipated.
It's pretty long. Yeah. In the beginning, you're like, oh, this will be easy. But then at the end, you're like, oh, I get it. Okay. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. I can show you It's Pony as well. These were a couple options I was doing for this show called It's Pony, which is an animation series about a girl and her talking pony, and they live together in the city. But yeah, these are all just like the same sort of like the same sort of skeleton for like lettering, and there's just like different options. Like you keep getting notes, so I think this is probably like one of the first drawings of that logo. But then they're like, oh, can you add like a little bit more texture, maybe a little bit less, but with like color, with the same colors that we have from like the artwork that the artists are showing us, because they show us like an episode for some shows, and or they sent us like artwork of the characters or the sets and stuff. So that sort of also helps inspire like what these logos look like.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, and I don't know if anybody has heard any news about the Patrick Show coming out. These are not what the logos look like, but I think it's been pretty well established. Like the Patrick show is coming out, and it's like, so I can show you these. I wouldn't be able to show you things that I'm currently working on, but
No, of course not. Yeah.
so we were doing a bunch of like painterly versions of the Patrick Star show because he has his own show. And so these are just like different options. Some of them I've like custom typed. Other ones are like typed from like Adobe, from like a typeset already from like other foundries and stuff, but you know, supplanted to make it look like it's more custom and stuff. And they're all like very colorful and try to like borrow things from the show because at Nick we use a lot of like colors like that.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. And there's such a wide range of detailing in each of the showing right
now. Yeah, they wanted a very like, which is sort of strange for logos. You don't usually do that for logos in general. Like usually want a, because they have to scale in various sizes. We have different versions of logos. So we have like very simplistic ones, like the black and white ones I showed you, like those strip out all of the color. And you might like also expand some of the shapes inside of like letters to make them like be more apparent when they're at the really small sizes. Yeah, but sometimes those things are like blown up like to the side of a bus. So they have to be like, they have to look at it every scale. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, they're all really, really impressive, and it's great to get insight into some of the projects that you've been scheduled on or booked on. One of our participants is actually curious about what, you know, I'm conscious that your father had mentioned, or you mentioned that your father really wanted you to be a doctor. But one of our participants, anonymous viewer, asks, how was your early life? Did you want to have a different career, or is this something that you've always wanted to do?
I've always like drawn and done art and stuff. I was interested in the sciences though also. Like I think now I could also see myself, if I had to try again, I could see like myself going down a science route. I've also been like recently interested in economics, but that can be like really dry, especially if like you're young. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of stuff in there, but I don't have a lot of like interest now. I try to learn other things outside of this. Like even like I've learned some basic coding to like,
oh, cool.
I don't know, just the different ways of thinking about the world. And also I've been trying to learn more about motion graphics in general. But yeah, I think scientist was the other option in my brain. That was the other idea I think the whole time. I was like, oh, I'll keep doing graphic design until I like settle down and like take it seriously and do science. But that day didn't come.
Oh,
it was fun.
My sister's actually a scientist.
Oh, cool.
She very much enjoys it, but her and my worlds are very, very different, or her and our world, because our world is very similar. Edwin is wondering, and actually this ties into another question that I was actually going to ask you. What skills might you need in order to pursue a graphic designer role? So for those who are sharing the space with us today who want to pursue becoming a graphic designer, you know, to Edwin's point, what programs would work best for these types of logos?
Does Edwin mean computer programs, or do they mean like school programs, like education paths?
I suspect, I don't want to speak for Edwin, but I suspect more software based.
Okay.
And then from my own perspective, I'm quite curious as to like some, you know, other skills that you feel one must take in order to pursue.
So these are mostly done in Photoshop and Illustrator. Photoshop allows for a lot of like photorealistic stuff and also like painterly effects. Illustrator is great for, it's very flexible, and you can use a lot of like, just the way the tool works. It's like, I don't know if TAP works with Bezier curves and vector stuff yet.
Not at the moment, but that's something that we will consider.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's a very interesting way of like thinking about shapes and like layers and stuff. I've often thought about of like illustrators like making like sheets of paper that can like be sort of like infinite and be pulled in any direction, and Photoshop is like tile, like putting little tiles down like pixels, and also painting. Like if you combine tiles and painting together, that's that. In terms of like skills, for graphic design in general, I think it's super important to have a basis in like typography. Every level uses that, like UX, like website design, UI, Yeah, and also just sometimes like you'll have like when people hear you're a graphic designer, like your parents and stuff, they'll be like, "Oh, can you make me a logo?" And you're like, "Oh," like sometimes you don't want to, and sometimes you'll have to. So like to have like a typography like understanding and like lettering understanding, it helps a lot to do stuff like that. Yeah. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think brainstorming is a big thing, and like that's just like doing a lot of thumbnail sketches, like little tiny like post-it note drawings, and just like trying to see how far you can make each one ahead of each other, and like doing little changes to each one if you like start to get closer to like an idea. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Actually, some more questions are
Yeah, I
popping.
see them flying in.
Yes, they're flying in. Owen Samuel's wondering, when you're creating your own fonts, do you work in Adobe Illustrator and then turn that into a font set? Or do you just keep it as a vector file? So it sounds like Owen Samuel has been doing some research on this front.
So we use Adobe for like Adobe has a like a font library licensing thing that you can just like download fonts from their website if you have the programs. So that like covers a lot of time for us. I do sometimes do both, where I would sometimes make my own lettering if I have the time for it, if I really believe in an idea. Like I'm trying to figure out a process for that right now because I'm still like figuring out those things, like what's the best way to work, like what appeals to my mind, and what's like the sort of fastest and easiest way to go about things. I recently did I can show you this also. Actually, let me just bring it up right now. I'm working on a personal project. We can get more on this later. There's no sound needed for this, but so Eric Andre, the comedian, this is showing up, right?
Yes.
This black, okay. So he has a list of fake band names, and I'm making for myself album covers for like some of these band names. So this is 90210, 867530999 Set Steakhouse, Alien versus Predator versus Brown versus the Board of Education. This one's called Mellow Apocalypse, Witch Poop, Television Olympics, Operation Dude Brigade, Creepo Depot, Root Excuse Me, NYC USA. This is the one I want to show you because this is like custom type. And so the process for this was I first drew NYC USA like straight on, like not skewed, and then like on a piece of paper. And then I brought it into Photoshop to like clean it up a lot, and then brought it into Illustrator to even clean it up even more, and then skewed it, and then put it back into Photoshop, added this gold texture and this extrusion over like this Photoshopped picture of New York. And so it just like these little bits, like the more you learn about the programs, great thing about Adobe is that the programs feed into each other. So like with After Effects, the animation program, like you can feed things in from Illustrator and Photoshop into there. But yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How long did that take you to pull
This
together?
one?
Yeah.
About 3 days, maybe.
Awesome.
Yeah. I started getting better at doing this project.
On a regular basis.
It took me a long time to get into it because I started working on it, like I thought about it for a few years, but I started working on it like in January. Like, and I'm trying to do 30 of them. I've eliminated some here because of time and stuff, but yeah.
I'm conscious too, you probably also already have a pretty busy schedule with Nickelodeon too. So being able to carve out that time is pretty unique.
Yeah. I mean, also like sometimes like we have summer Fridays at Nick. So that means like every other Friday I'm allowed to take off. So, which is a good perk of the job. So if you guys find an established place, sometimes they have more lenient like work schedules, which is pretty nice. And they have like larger teams so they can like cover for each other. It's also a little bit slower in the summer because it's like because it's kids programming, like everyone's out on summer vacation. So it's like a little bit lighter. So during the year, it's a little bit heavier because, you know, people come home and they just like from school or work and they just want to like watch something. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I didn't know that you had those special summer Fridays. Owen Samuel's wondering as well, and asking so many great questions.
Yeah.
What is the font that you dislike using the most when clients ask you to design on spec?
I don't know if I hate any fonts like that much. I used to like really not like Comic Sans, but like I realized there's been studies that show it's very good for people who have like legibility issues.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's good for for apparently, according to like studies, that it's good for dyslexic individuals. And apparently, there's been like studies, I think, and like I think the ADA is like trying to come up with like what the best type practices for visuals. I always thought it was serif fonts with like the little feet, but I've heard the opposite from a librarian friend of mine.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if it's sans or serifs or if it's Comic Sans. Anyway, I guess Papyrus is not fun to use, but I don't run across that too much in my line of work.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, how often would you use Papyrus?
Pretty much never, because the Avatar has it like used it for their font, and it was such a big deal that like it's going to be associated with that pretty much forever.
As long as we keep making them out, that's a very, very valid point. So another question I wanted to ask you is more so for those who are sort of, very not very established in their careers, like more pursuing entry level opportunities and trying to expand upon their current, like the world of design. And apparently I can't speak all of a sudden, so my apologies. But what are some recommendations you might have for those who don't have immediate design knowledge and would love to expand their skills as a designer?
Okay, so it depends like what resources you have access to. If you can take a continuing education class or like a supplemental class at like Cooper Union, they have a good type program. Or at SVA also, I got a shout out to them because that I took a class with this man named John Newman, this professor there, and he was like a very good stepping stone for me. Like he actually like recommended me to people he had friends at Nick, and so that's how I was able to get a job there.
That's awesome.
There's a lot of information online now. There's a lot of technical things you can learn on YouTube and stuff. In terms of like brainstormy things, I would honestly look into like a lot of books about like reading stuff. I know Ellen Lupton has a great like book to get started in like typography and stuff and like learn about the rules of it. She's a professor, and I think she's like the coordinator of the graphic design program at MICA, which is in Maryland.
Okay. I'm making some notes for myself as well. This is very informative.
MICA's great. Yeah, MICA's also. I'm thinking about going to grad school there, but I'm not sure yet. She's fantastic. I'm trying to think of what else you could do when you get started. I think you also have to like figure out like what do you find fun, honestly, because like a lot of my portfolio is personal work, and that's what got me the jobs I've gotten so far. Because if you fill your portfolio with things that you've done for other people but you don't really like, and you're like, well, I've been paid for this, that's what other people will continue to pay you for. It's just going to repeat itself. And like that does mean you have to do work for free, but like if you like it, you'll be like, these are my personal projects, and like eventually it'll hopefully like start to build. And it usually does for people who have like the people I know who've taken this advice. It just builds for them.
That is such incredible insight. I really appreciate you sharing that, because I think there's so much value in sort of creating art that you love and doing something that really resonates. And it also shows through in your conversations as you're being interviewed with potential employers.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. I mean, at my last job, it was a startup that you can make like, they were selling a software you can make websites like really quickly in browser. So that was like impressive at the time. I know there's a lot of competitors now, but at the time we were like the only ones. And so I was like, oh, how can I use this tool to make more websites like really quickly? So I made a fake website for a presidential candidate who has a pizza for a head. It was called like Vote for Pete Za. Actually, hold on, let me bring it up. I think I have it on my website. Yeah. Let's see. Let me do the old share. There we go. So this is pizza, and you can see the website, the video. Yeah, so this is what the video looked like. I mean, the website looked like. It's been taken down because of like the URL like expired and stuff. But I wrote this whole thing. I made like all the Photoshop graphics and stuff, and like set out. And this was like early on, did this whole things where like you can do like little click on things and like give like little political things. This was back in 2016 when it was like Hillary versus Trump. And he had a running mate, Calvin Zone, sometimes Calzone, electable, and then delectable. Yeah, there's a campaign song. There's a campaign song from the Olsen twins called "Give Me Pizza," and then they had joined the pizza party today. Anyway, I made this and I presented it like in front of the entire company, which was like 50 or 60 people at the time. And I got a standing ovation, which was like very like heartwarming. But then they also like the CEO later came over to me like a week later. He's like, listen, can you make more things like this for us? And like basically took me off like what I was working on at the time. And so I ended up like running the editorial, like I was the head designer at the editorial section that they just started. So they like started this blog that you can show you here that I had a hand in designing. And so like it was like supposed to be like just very interactive. And so like that's what happens with all these like rollover and stuff. But like this all came from like me doing that pizza website. And I didn't imagine that. Like I was just like, I want to do this because it's a challenge and I want to get noticed. So
you effectively changed your career day to day.
Yeah, I changed my job like a few months into the job, which was a lot of fun. And so I got to do all these like other like headers for like for them. So I got to do like animations like this. And this is all from the this actually helped, like working in this program actually helped like get a sort of head start on like After Effects later, because these are like you choose these like animations from a set list of them. It's not as like custom as like an animation program. So that's why it was just like a head start sort of to like think about how animation would work and like how does interaction work and stuff. Yeah. Sorry, that was a little long-winded, but yeah.
No, not long-winded at all. And in fact, I endorse anything that relates to the world of pizza.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess the moral of the story is like things just stack on each other sometimes, and that's great.
Yeah, 100%. Opal's wondering, when you were a younger artist, did you save any of your work to revisit now that you are a working paid artist with more skills in tech?
I mean, how far back do you want to go? We can go to high school. Let's see. Yeah. We can see if I need high school art.
In real time, Opal, we're looking this up right now.
Oh, you ready for my sophomore year?
Let's do sophomore year of high school?
Or sophomore year in high school. This is when I was like learning all this stuff.
So you're pretty organized with your desktop.
I try. Oh yeah, that's right.
I'm pretty impressed. I can't tell you the number of artists that I've spoken to who are not as organized as you are. I say that very effectively.
Yeah, and I still get things lost, so it can get even like worse if you're less organized. But yeah, please organize your files. It also helps when you have to hand them off to other people.
100%.
Yeah, this was like a project we had to do in high school where like we had to like take a word and just like illustrate it in a graphic way. And I was just like, I was just like putting things together, finding fonts on dafont.com. They're like cheap. Really into graffiti and street art at the time. So I was doing a lot of these vector things. Really simple Photoshop. Yeah, I was like, Photoshop. Really into streetwear. We did a logo. We had a contest to like do a new logo for our high school. I went to Bergen County Technical High School. That's
cool.
DHS. I hope there's no like nothing inappropriate in here because no, it's just second hoodies. Flow. We had to do like a type thing to like break down this sort of stuff, but it's like, this all builds on each other. Some of these are just like, I remember I photoshopped my face. That's not what I look like, but I wonder if there's anything in here that's like, we did do like redesign projects. Oh, this was fun. I did a paper toy. So you'd cut this out and then you'd make it into, I don't know if they have a picture of it. Hopefully there is. I was super into street art, you can tell. Did like a letterhead.
Definitely resonates, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, this is like my working files for that. Like I would like cut it up. I wish I had a picture of it. Maybe there is. Oh, I did whoa, all right. It doesn't come in for that because it's like a little bit embarrassing.
That is so cool. It's pretty interesting too, because I feel like we're getting a sense of like your high school headspace too. Just sort of as you sort of are scrolling us through each of your projects. It's pretty impressive.
I'm trying to find more things that like, we had to do like a snowboarding project for some reason. I don't even remember these. Oh, here's me making fun of Comic Sans. Like to make a bunch of snowboarding things.
Amazing.
Yeah, that was fun. Wow, I forgot about those.
Nice little trip down memory lane for you.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for that question.
No, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Opal. Wanted to add as well. Like, how do you find, especially in this crazy world that we're all in the world of post production, design, etc. Like, how do you find like a healthy work-life balance, or how do you maintain that? Like, what keeps you feeling balanced in that sense with your work and personal life?
There's a lot of like, I mean, that in the design world, I think it's getting better. People like viewing, like, especially because I think it's been sort of a change for people, especially during like COVID and the pandemic, of like when to cut off. Because you're like, oh, I still have revisions and I'm at home where I work. So it's not like I don't have anywhere to go. So it became like this challenge of like, how do I create this boundary? And you really have to. You kind of like have to do it for yourself, but also like your bosses and the people who you work for shouldn't be taking advantage of you to like. 100%. So you just have to keep your mind like you're also technically a business person. So they're taking away like in a way like if you stay later without being paid overtime, like you are sort of like you're losing money essentially. So that's like one way of looking at it. Also for your mental health in general. It's important to like just like take time for yourself because nobody can work like nonstop. I think like there's been these posts on Instagram I've seen of like what I thought success looked like when I was younger, and it was like hard work and then like success or whatever. But then it's like then they show like how it looks now, and it's a pie chart, and it's like hard work, rest, and it's like a bunch of components. It's like it's a balance of things. Yeah, you really have to like carve out time to like take a breather. For me, running has been like a huge savior, I guess, or like safety net for me, sort of, because there's something with like physical activity and like motion that like jogs. There's a pun. Jogs the brain. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that advice as well. That's really, really important to note. Adding to this, I want to get a sense, what are some of your passions and what do you do outside of working as a graphic designer? I think it's always so interesting to see what one's hobbies are.
I'm trying to think of like what. I mean, I like hiking a lot. I like being out in nature. Like traveling. The last place I went to before the pandemic was Japan, which is a really wide, like just very like eye-opening. I was like, oh, I took a Japanese class to like see how much I could learn in like a month before. I didn't learn that much. I learned how to apologize, which is very important in Japan.
Very important.
Yeah, I was doing it a lot, and I enjoy cooking. That for me is also like because I have like I tend to have like anxiety a lot, and so like cooking is a way to like it's also like kind of creative, but you're also following like something like a plan, and you're using a lot of your senses. You're like listening for like how like the sizzle of a frying pan, and also the smell of something, and also you're tasting, and like you're just moving around the kitchen and stuff, and you're on your feet. And that for me has been like really good. And also you get to eat something at the end.
There's a reward.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. I really appreciate you sharing that as well.
Sure.
So thank you for being so candid. I guess, just as sort of like a final question or two, what are some other recommendations you have for those who just want to break into the world that we're all in anyway, whether they want to be a designer or a CG artist, what do you have some words of advice or words of wisdom that you might be able to offer them so as that they can carry with them into the rest of the week ahead?
Yeah, a few things. I mean, obviously just be nice to other people because people like to hire nice people.
Really do.
I wouldn't, don't wait to be better. I think a lot of my projects you can see from my high school thing are like blank or like it's the drawing outline of a hoodie and it's nothing else. And I think I was waiting to be better at certain skills. Before like I was like, oh, like I think my sketchbook is full of like from high school is like full of a lot of drawings of like people but no faces because I couldn't draw faces, and that did make me better at drawing faces by not drawing them. By like putting it off, I would tell myself, oh, when I'm good at faces I'll draw these, don't wait. I did that with a lot of projects for graphic design too, and I'm like, oh, I'll know how to do this eventually, but like you should just work with the restraints you have. And that's great. I've also thought about like just in general design philosophy. If you can like find something, like read it. It doesn't mean you have to agree with it, but it does give you something to react to, like mentally. I've been trying to figure out like what I think about design in general, and I realized that like for me, graphic design has two rules. You got to organize data to make it easier to understand, and two is you got to reward the user for paying attention. And some people think that's the same thing, but it's they have a slight distinction, because like if you reward somebody for paying attention, that can be like, oh, you're giving them joy, or like, you know, it doesn't just have to be like this thing is for sale. It could be like, oh, this is actually really inspiring. Like Nike does that a lot, where they're like, you said yesterday tomorrow, which is like no, you said tomorrow yesterday, sorry. And that's like their thing to like inspire people to like get things done today instead of waiting or procrastinating and stuff. But like they're also selling shoes, like, you know, so like you're doing both. Yeah.
I love that you said tomorrow yesterday.
Yeah. Whoops. Oh, sorry, the dog's here. Hi, Sophie. She's excited.
She's excited that you're at the animation project.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for your wisdom. Is there anything else that we covered that you'd like to share within the space?
Oh, keep a sketchbook. That's important.
Oh yes, please.
I forgot to send these.
We talked about it earlier, and my mistake, I did not address it.
Yeah, there's this sketchbook I had for a while. I don't like, for some reason, I don't like sketchbooks that have like these like weird pencils on them. So I just like cover them with stickers. But I can show you some things. There's some animation stuff I've done that's like based off some of these drawings. Like I started doing just these with highlighter.
Oh, cool.
And just pen and ink, and like they're pretty easy. I also started taking myself like a little bit less seriously, which like helps to think about like things and stuff. I would draw a lot on scrap paper and like post-it notes and stuff and just paste them in.
Oh, nice one.
Because some of the stuff you do while on the phone, like doodling, is a lot of fun. Let me see.
How long have you kept that sketchbook?
I think this is like, there's a bunch of drawings in here that are from my freshman year in college. So that's like 2010. And so I stopped drawing in it. And then I restarted during the pandemic, where I started doing like this type work. Yeah, I draw this like green guy a lot. Let me see what else there is. Any of this looks interesting. Oh, there was a thing in here.
There's like a wide range. Like you're quite versatile.
Yeah, this was based on a podcast episode. But yeah, and stuff like that. So, ta-da!
That's amazing. And it's incredible that you picked it up, or you revisited your sketchbook off the back of the pandemic.
Yeah, I think I was also cleaning out. I moved back with my parents for the pandemic because they both work in hospitals.
Yeah, I remember.
And so, yeah, and so my mom started watching Marie Kondo. Was like, we gotta clean your room, and I was like, all right, fine. But I also had a lot of stuff, so I got rid of half of it, and I had a bunch of empty sketchbooks, and I was like, I gotta fill like also, and like half finished ones. So I was like, okay, let's not buy any more sketchbooks. Let's just fill these out. And like I just picked them up like one at a time. I'm almost done with this one.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Actually, someone else just sneaked in another question before I was about to release you into the wild. They've asked, what are some recommendations for online websites to use for digital art or animation? Are there any suggestions?
Yeah, I would check out the School of Motion. They have a YouTube channel. Textured Labs is pretty good for Photoshop like stuff. It's gonna make your stuff. That's how I learned the gold texture that I showed you on that album cover.
You said School of Motion. Yeah, School of Motion is wonderful.
Oh yeah, E.C. Abrams from YouTube. He's great. He does a lot of, E as in the letter E, and then C, and then Abrams. Yeah, I think there's an H in Abrams, but I forget. I don't know. YouTube will correct your mistakes.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
YouTube definitely does do that.
Yeah, those have been pretty helpful.
And when you mentioned something with texture.
Oh, Texture Labs. It's a guy who's just been doing like movie logos forever, and like he's done stuff for like Comedy Central and stuff, and like lettering and stuff. And he's a new channel, and I'm really impressed with what he's been doing. I was just like, yo, your stuff is amazing. There's also an animator who works for Buck. Buck is an animation and motion graphics studio that has like offices all around the world. His name is like Ben something. I'm sure if you look up Ben Buck animation in YouTube, you'll find it. But he's like this Australian
he's
guy.
based in their
and
office in Australia.
He was, and then he like left to just focus on YouTube full time.
Oh, interesting. I didn't.
Yeah.
I'll have to check him out. That's really helpful.
I don't remember his last name. Ben something. All right. Well.
We will all have to Google Ben Buck and something else.
Yeah.
Awesome.
An
animator.
Yes. It's important.
Well, thank you so much, Martin.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Having you here. Your insight and your wisdom and your guidance for all of those within the space. I myself was taking a lot of notes, so I know that we've all been so inspired by you and by your time with us. It's been a pleasure having you, and we hope that we'll be able to stay in touch and collaborate with you in the future.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited for that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much once again, and I hope that everyone here, including yourself, has a wonderful rest of your Wednesday afternoon. And I will pass the baton to the lovely Lisa and the equally lovely Lyndon. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Martine. Linda, we're almost in sync there.
Yeah.
So awesome to hear about your journey, and see your art, and just gain so much wisdom from you. And so cool to hear and get to meet somebody who's been slimed before.
Yeah, totally. It was really amazing hearing from you, Martin. Thank you so much.
All right, Lyndon. So it's just about that time. Here we are at our closing ritual for today. So we've been talking about movement in our small engagement workshop groups this week, and we're talking about animating and movement. So on the count of 3, Lyndon, you and I get to model this, but everybody at home is going to join us too in their places and spaces. On the count of 3, we're going to strike a pose that represents your own signature movement, your own signature pose. You ready, Lyndon?
I'm ready.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. No, I had a feeling you were going to go there, Lyndon.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so let's shake it out. Shake out your signature pose, the pose that represents you. Over to you, Lyndon.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Lisa. Well, it looks like we've actually come to the end of today's MEC group, everyone. Please remember to stay connected with us through our website as well as our social media. And again, thank you for joining the Made in New York Animation Project Mega Group.
Yeah. We'll see you really soon. Oh, and just to note that we are ending a few minutes early, but you still will receive your incentive for today. All right, everyone. Until next time.
Take care.